if you ever want to be a leader, you're going to have to realize just how important it is to stop between stimulus and response. That space between stimulus and response is exactly where you're going to grow leadership, where you're going to grow yourself as a man, where you're going to grow yourself as a leader, where you're going to grow your imagination, where you're going to grow your conscience, where you're going to grow your self-will. The human being has a very powerful self-will. Don't believe me? You think you have a weak will? Well, when you're faced with a life and death situation, you can do a lot of things that you never thought you could do. When you're faced with total poverty, with homelessness, when you're faced with a situation that's going to affect your life terribly, you will apply your will to a situation to get the result you want. Will you not? If you know your rent's due on the 1st and you're going to get kicked out if you don't make your rent, don't you find every single way possible to make that happen? Whether you got to donate plasma, whether you got to go get a loan, whether you got to find some work, no matter what you got to do, you're going to do it and you're going to get it done. Right? When I got shot in the face, I was literally bleeding out on a floor. Just watched my face get splattered all over a ceiling. And the attacker was still in my house. And I had to get up and get out to the phone and call 911. It was at an automotive shop. And the guy was still standing there. I walked past this motherfucker with my whole face blown off. I had all this rebuilt. Everything. With my whole face blown off. Was like, motherfucker, don't pull that fucking trigger again. And the motherfucker must have been so shocked, he went running out of the shop. I got to the phone, called 911. The ambulance got there. I managed to survive. And I was in complete and total control while all this was going on, aware of my surroundings, more heightened in my mind than I've ever been in my life. When you are faced with a life and death situation, with a must situation, with a have to situation, when your wants become your have tos, when your desires become a must, that's when you will do it. That's when you will apply your will. Well, first, we have to use our imagination. We have to use our imagination. Well, first we learn the laws of the universe. We learn how the laws of the universe work. What is 2 plus 2? How does the law of attraction work? How does the law of familiarity work? How does life operate? We ask ourselves the big questions, and that's where your imagination comes into play. You use your imagination to ask yourself the hard questions of life, and then you use your consciousness to decide where to apply these, how they line up with your moral convictions. What are your moral convictions? They come from your consciousness, which is the voice of God inside of you. It can be God inside of you, or it can be your selfishness. We have to decide. Is this something I want, or is this something the universe is telling me? Do I have a motive for wanting this? Or am I doing the hard stuff? Am I doing what I don't want to do? Chances are, if you're doing what you don't want to do, you're doing the right thing. Anytime you're doing what you don't want to do, 99% of the time it's the right thing. Anytime we're doing what we want to do, A lot of times it's by feeling, emotion. It's possibly the wrong thing. And we have to examine our motives, ask ourselves the big questions, and then use our consciousness to decide what that right answer is and where to apply it to grow ourselves as a human being. We exercise our self-will in that area. Our self-will is very strong. You have a strong self-will. If you own your own business and you're responsible for getting the job done, and my construction company, when I'm responsible for getting a job done, there's nobody else I can rely on but me. And I know that if I don't get this job completed, there's going to be repercussions in my business. There's going to be an unhappy customer. This is going to affect my business for weeks and months to come. This is going to cost me money. I will get that job done. I'll work day and night. I did a 4-story building in the historical district for the city up in Ohio, and I had to get it done by the time the fair came to town. I think it was October 1st. 4-story building, 88 feet to the top of the elevator shaft, and 4, 5, 10, 15 windows, 20 windows on the front of the building. I had a 60-foot genie boom out there doing the side of this building. And all of my guys quit. They all got on drugs, quit because they couldn't show up to work, quit because they were drunk, whatever. And so I had to get this job done by myself. The whole outside of the building, scrape all the brick on the outside of this 4-story building, do all the tuck point work, seal it, and then paint it, and then paint it again. And I got that job done before the fair came to town. I worked 36 hours one shift. I slept for 4 hours. I worked another 16 hours, slept for 8 hours, worked another 16-hour shift. I did that all week long and got that job done before the fair came to town. Because the whole city was watching me, and it would have costed me my business had I not got it done. And I got that damn job done. You better believe that. When your wants and desires become your have-tos and your must, you will exercise your self-will in a manner that's so productive you never thought you could be productive. And you can create that scenario in your mind. You are in control of that. You can create that scenario in your mind, even on the small stuff. I have to become this in my life or this will happen. You're going to continue to suffer from the things that you don't work on in your life. Every man has to come to the point where he's ready to fix a certain problem because it's caused him enough pain. All the things that we do not work on as a man, okay? If you're a cheater and you cheat on your girlfriends, but secretly you desire to have lasting relationships with love and a family, you're going to have to stop cheating. You're going to have to control yourself. You're going to have to change yourself as a man in your mind and your beliefs. Our beliefs control our thoughts and our words and our actions, which become habits, which become lifestyles. So you're going to have to figure out what the problem is, why you're a cheater, and how can you stop? How can you fix it? If you lie all the time and you're destroying relationships, you're going to have to figure out what is making me lie. Well, lying comes from fear. People lie because they're afraid of not getting what they want. They're afraid of the repercussions if they tell the truth. They're afraid of something. So you get to the root cause of lying, which is fear. And how do I stop being fearful? Well, you need to recognize, well, what am I in fear from? I'm in fear from losing something or not getting something, not getting what I want. Okay, so my selfishness. So I'm being selfish. I want what I want, and I'm not willing to sacrifice what I want in order to do the right thing. Most of our problems boil down to selfishness. We don't want to change because we don't want to go through the pain. We don't want to put the work in because we want to be lazy. We want to procrastinate and be lazy. We want to be selfish. We want what we want when we want it. Well, I assure you that every problem that you don't work on in your life as a man will be something that you suffer from for the rest of your life. Because 2 + 2 = 4. The law of mathematics. The universe operates on mathematics. Everything's mathematical. If you do this, you'll get that. Well, you're doing something that's causing you to get nothing, or to get something you don't want. Laziness equals poverty. So you have to become a hard worker, a smart worker. You have to be able to do business. You got to become a good man if you want a good relationship. Whatever you don't work on, you'll suffer from. Whatever you work on, you'll overcome. By using your imagination, your consciousness, and then exercising your self-will, doing what you have to do, and setting your emotions aside. As men, that's probably the most important thing that we could do, is learn stoicism. I'd say that's probably the most important thing we could do as a man. Since the day that I started setting my feelings aside to do what I have to do instead of what I want to do, that's the day I gained freedom. There is freedom in discipline. And the best things in the universe are never free. You are not going to wake up on a daily basis and be happy every day. What makes you so deserving of the best things in the universe? Peace, happiness, joy, love. These are all things that we work for. Every day when I wake up in the morning, I get up between 4 and 5 in the morning. I usually get up at 4 in the morning. Sometimes I get up at 5. Lately I have been. But the first things that I have to do, drinking my coffee and contemplating my day, myself as a man, my frame of mind, who am I, who do I need to be? Not what do I need to do today. Everybody can make a to-do list. But who do I need to be as a man? I have to ask myself these things every single morning. I have to meditate on these things, and I have to read on these things every day. What can I do to grow myself as a man? To implement more discipline in my life. And through that, I achieve happiness. I achieve peace. I achieve a good relationship. If you want to have a good relationship, you're going to have to put up with some of your woman's shit, just like she puts up with some of yours. Well, every time she gets mad, you can't get mad. Every time she's unhappy or losing her mind, somebody has to stop and say, I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm going to think about this rationally and set my emotions aside. How can I be helpful to this situation? And every time you set yourself aside and think about what the right thing to do is, you grow immediately. The growth is immediate. The happiness you achieve from that is immediate. You immediately feel like a man. And every time you give in to your emotions and lose control, you feel like less of a man. Right? Every time you lose control, every time you come out of character. So my goal, or goals, on a daily basis is to make money, to not come out of character, to be a better man, to be a good man to my woman. And all that comes from my imagination, my consciousness, okay, and my self-will, my ability to force these things in my life, regardless of how I feel. So self-awareness is key, right? You can't know what to fix if you can't see what to fix. And if you can't see it yourself, most generally a sick mind can't fix a sick mind. So in order to get a sick mind well, you have to listen to somebody who has a well mind. Somebody with a well mind, looking at things from the outside in, can show you exactly what you need to work on because they deal with you on a regular basis. They can see your character flaws better than you. Taking criticism and having self-awareness is how you grow. That's your starting point. Self-awareness. Who am I as a man? What type of person am I? And you can get there by examining the things of your past. How did I act in this situation? How have I harmed the people around me throughout my life? And you admit your faults. You see how you've harmed everyone in your life and all the bad things that you've done. You come face to face with them. You acknowledge them. You speak them out loud. You write them down and you say, this is what I need to change. And you start with one thing at a time. If you fixed the top 3 worst characteristics in your life, if you fix the top 3 characteristics in your life that are the worst, the most hurtful, you would be a fantastic man. You really don't have that many problems. You really have about 3 or 4. 3 or 4 characteristics about yourself that hurt everyone around you, including yourself. You really don't have that many problems. You only have a few. You just work on one thing a month. How about that? This is what I'm going to work on this month. And generally it boils down to your selfishness. If you learn how to set your emotions aside, it'll generally fix whatever those character problems are. If I learn to give to other people more than I take, those 2 things right there, learning how to set your emotions aside and be stoic, and learning how to give more than you take, I guarantee if you examine yourself as a man, write those things down, find out your top 3 worst characteristics, those 2 things right there will probably solve all of those. Those will probably solve all of those. Stoicism and giving more than you take. And being glad about it. Because contribution, as we talked about in other videos, is part of the 6 basic human needs. So we do that with our tools. What are our tools? Well, I just told you. Imagination, consciousness, self-will. Self-awareness being the first one. You use your vision, your imagination to imagine yourself from the outside in and say, what's wrong with me? Who am I as a man? So those are your tools for the day. If you exercise those things, I promise it'll improve your life 100-fold. 100-fold. That's where I had to start at Alcoholics Anonymous 10 years ago. And that's all the books I've read, the self-help, self-improvement, the business books. Those are the main things that all of these books and all of these classes, all of these mentors, teachers, and everything have in common. Is those are the main things that they preach. And if you apply those things in your life, I promise it'll change your life. Have a great day. God bless you guys. Keep on moving.